Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Monday night panel. I'm stepping in as Chris is off to the Swindon Town Carol service this evening, so you'll have to put up with me instead. What to say about Saturday? I think there's going to be a lot to be said in the next hour. So without further ado, let's bring Vic on. I think he's got his black armband on. Good evening, Vic. How are you?
All right,
You've got your shirt on.
Yeah.
Have we got over Saturday yet?
No, and it'll take a while. Chris wants to pass on season's greetings to everybody, and she'll see everybody in the new year, of course, when we're back after the New Year holidays, etc.
You've got a few parish notices.
I have. SAS Travel. Now, if you want to go to Crewe, there is a reserve list as the first coach is full. Crawley seats are available on sale tomorrow when they're open on the phone tomorrow evening from 7 o'clock. And if you're going to Tranmere on SAS Travel, they leave the county ground at 8:45 on Saturday, 8:45 a.m. Saturday to go to Tranmere. Now, you may well know that today is the 55th anniversary of a very special game. And if I give you this scoreline, you'll know what I mean. Swindon Town 3, Burnley 2 after extra time. Now, the score after 90 was 1-1. It was, of course, the League Cup semi-final replay between Swindon and Burnley. It was held at the Hawthorns, the home of West Bromwich Albion, and there is the programme for that very game. John Smith put the Town in front on 7 minutes. Dave Thomas, he of the England winger, scored on 89, so that took the game into extra time. Frank Casper, whose son Chris played for the Town for a little while, you might well remember, he scored on 91 minutes. And Arthur Bellamy own goal put Town level on 104, and Peter Noble got the winner on 108 minutes to take Swindon to Wembley. And they celebrated, you might well think, with lots of alcohol, but oh no, fish and chips and lemonade was how they celebrated that particular game. And I've got a great story here from Oakus Road, who's on Fools Rush In, of course, which follows us at 9 o'clock. Was there, Vic? Not sure how it happened, as I was still at school on a residential week. One of the teachers took myself and a mate. Guests wouldn't be allowed today. Main thing I remember is being behind the goal and the keeper's desperate attempt to keep out Town's third from Peter Noble. Fabulous stories. If you've got any memories of that one, we'd love to hear from you tonight. There's no question about that. So there we are.
And we've got some news about the Academy as well, haven't we?
We have. Now, the Academy, of course, beat Luton Town on Friday night by 2-0. And that means they'll go through to the next round against Derby County or Manchester United. Now, those two, I think, play out tomorrow night. So we'll know when they go through. So that'll be a fantastic thing to know. I'm just checking that is tomorrow night, or is it another time? I'll just check that. But anyway, the replay is this week between Derby and Manchester United. So we'll know which one of those they play. And that'll be a fantastic draw for them. After tomorrow night, that's quite right. So a home game, week commencing the 8th of January against either Derby or Manchester United, which would be fantastic.
Fabulous. Okay, so without further ado, let's bring our guests on. Good evening, Nick. Good evening, Phil. Good evening, Andrew. And a warm welcome to Becky. Good evening.
Hello.
Hiya.
Hope you're all well. Right, I'll leave you to it.
Thanks very much indeed, Andy. Some more comments coming in regarding that Burnley game. Rob, how are you, Rob? Good evening all. Still haven't got over Saturday. Great game at the Hawthorns. Had everything. Rich says, I was there. Tony says, remember that well. So lots of memories coming in about that. And Tony also says, happy Christmas to all. Hopefully 2024 will be a good one. Sean says, haven't got over Saturday. Gutted. Before we go on any further, Beck, this is your first time on the panel. So if you give us a background of your football supporting ways.
Okay, so I used to be a season ticket holder when I was young. I've then had children, and between me and my husband, we just have one season ticket and we sort of share it between us. I went to my first game, I think, when I was about 7. The promise of a Mars bar and a hot chocolate from my dad was enough to lure me in. And I actually remember one of my first games I do remember was in the Prawn Sandwich Brigade, actually with my dad. It must have been something to do with his company. And I wrote a song for Iffy and Nora. I don't remember if I sang it to him or not. I hope I didn't for my own sanity. But yeah, so we must be talking 28 years now of support for my sins.
Well, you look very well on it, considering
Thanks.
28 years. It's a long
That's not
time.
often I get that sort of comment.
A lot of us feel really quite bad about it, to be honest, at the minute. I mean, look at us. Look at the assembled multitude you have in front of you. Now, let's say, Nick, hello to you.
Hello.
Normally, you're in the United States of America, but you're somewhat closer to the county ground tonight, I think.
Yeah, I'm back over till January the 3rd. And
Very
I went
good.
to that great game on Saturday.
Well, not all of it. We'll find out about that later on. Phil, you were in the commentary box alongside the gentleman also with us tonight. How was it for you on Saturday?
Yeah, not really the most entertaining of games I've ever seen, obviously. Found it quite tough, really, to not go over the same things over and over again because the same things were happening. But, yeah, not a great afternoon, really.
Mr. Hawes, a very good evening to you.
Hello. I second Phil's summary, basically.
How did you commentate on that thing? Because, to be honest,
Quite
not a lot
badly,
happened.
I think.
Not a lot happened, did it? Let's be honest.
No. There was a lot of space to fill. I think we did end up giving Barrow's failure to get re-elected a disproportionate amount of time. I think that's how we filled it.
Right, we're going to start off with one stat which I've sort of got here. Since we last scored at Accrington in the 90th minute, we've conceded 10 goals in 2 and a very small amount of games. That's not good, Beck, is it?
I mean, you can't dress it up any other way, can you? It's unreal, isn't it? And it's miserable for the supporters as well. My son's 6. For him, it's all about goals. That's what he likes to see. He loves to jump up and down, celebrate with his dad and his grandpa. It's miserable, isn't it? You know, I'm not one of these that says, you know, we have to win every game and we have to win by 3 or 4-0. But, you know, just to not have anything, it's miserable, really miserable.
Nick, from a coach's perspective, how did you view that on Saturday?
Oh, very poor. The hardest thing I struggle, I think fans do as well, is you don't see no leaders out there. You don't see everyone moaning at each other and trying to, having a go at people. That's what I want. I want to see a bit of passion from the players. But you just don't. It's like it's acceptable. We've let a goal in. Like we said earlier, the first goal, how poor was the marking on that? And you're thinking, surely someone's got to be rollicking someone out there because how was he left unmarked? And people just seem to accept it and they get on with it. And I'm thinking that's the frustrating thing is that it's got to be organised. You have your players marking, picking up certain areas, and but no one was, miles away from the guy. He had all the time in the world. Sit down, have a cup of coffee. Then I'll still have time to put it in the corner of the net. It was just, it's frustrating when you don't see the passion from the players. And I don't think I'm seeing that. I didn't see that Saturday.
What about the organisation, Phil? Because we were discussing this before we started. And, how can somebody be so unmarked? I mean, basically had time to pick the spot and smack it in. And he said, I've read a quote from him where he said he hasn't scored for a little while and they practiced it in training clearly. But you would expect somebody to have closed him down, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you think somebody should be in the vicinity anyway to sort of stop that pass from, someone's in the vicinity, that pass doesn't get played to him, it's a ball into the box, whether it's just someone that's half and half, or, actually sort of marking him. So I think there was 2 on the inside. It's sort of a missed, they say it in the NFL, a missed assignment. Someone should have been in those sort of areas, I think, probably. That's my assumption anyway. That was sort of missed. And then like Nick said, the organisation or someone, taking charge of the situation and sort of seeing that and didn't bring it up, and it's allowed them to have that time and space.
Whose responsibility is it then to set out the marking at a situation like that? Does the keeper have a shout? Is it the centre defenders? Who is it?
Well, it'll be set out before the game, You would always have like your marking assignment, where you're supposed to be in corners, who you're supposed to be marking. You'll probably get matched up against somebody similar sort of height or sort of ability, possibly, potentially. And you'll have like your assignments on the edge of the box. If you're not marking, if there's somebody in the area to mark, you mark them. If there's not, pick up the edge of the box, or if you're in a wall, So that will all be sorted out before the game starts. You know, that won't be sorted out, you know, on the pitch as a free kick happens. That'll all be sorted out before. So they would have had the information they would have needed, I assume, anyway.
Okay, got lots of comments coming in. Let's have a look. Lee says they look totally uninterested. Graham says the club's in an utter mess. I'm ready for this neg fest, says Ben Boobo Harrison. One thing that did make me laugh on Saturday, says Sean, was a bit when the ref gave Barrow the free kick despite their player flying through the back of Kemp. Anthony says you got a manager who says they work on defensive routines, yet all 3 goals unmarked, and then people start pointing. Shambles at the back. Okay, the bench was very weak, but why leave it until the 70-odd minute to change things? Dave the Chair. Hi, Dave. I don't mind losing, but it's the way we are doing it. Equals awful. I mean, not only was the first goal terrible, Andrew, but the marking on the second and third was equally woeful, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, the third one was exceptionally bad because there's a majestic James Chester and a lot of inertia around him, really, to come up and head that. It just feels like it's floated over the head of someone who doesn't know whether they should be going for the ball or trying to stick with their man. It was, that was pretty bad. And the second goal felt like one of the few times that Barrow really got sort of 4 or 5 men into the box, and they put in a good cross on that. So some of that was perhaps better work, but the third one was extremely sort of painful from a defensive point of view.
What was the manager's mood afterwards? Because I mean, I don't know, but you would imagine there were a few words said in the dressing room. Surely, how was he?
I think so. I don't think he was as annoyed as I've seen him. I think he may have got to the point where he feels a bit hamstrung by everything, by the fact that essentially he was down to 12 fit senior players, and Genesini has not played a lot. So it was almost as if, and this is, he could come on violently correct me the next time we speak. It was almost as if this is the 11 I've got. This is the best formation that fits them. It's not even necessarily the formation I want to play. We turned up. We gave away some stupid goals, which we shouldn't have done, but we lost. But I'm not sure how much he actually expected, if you know what I mean.
I do, yeah. Third goal by a defender who hasn't scored in 4 seasons, says Rob. Agree with Tony Goff. Really toxic atmosphere on Saturday, says Craig. Sean says, wasn't there 2 players offside on the first goal? Don't take away the awful marking, mind. We'll discuss that in a minute because many people have brought that up. We don't even leave a forward on the halfway line when defending corners, etc. Michael, the atmosphere in the club at the moment is worse than when Lee Power was in charge. Found on Saturday felt really toxic. Divided club from senior management, players and supporters. Not a really nice place to be. Beck, how have you found it? What's your feeling about the atmosphere at the minute?
I don't know if I'd necessarily go as far as toxic. It's certainly not a happy place to be. My husband tends to go more often than I do with my son and my dad. And all 3 of them are just very much going through the motions of going to a game. Long gone are the days of being excited to go, thinking, who have we got this week? We can do it. We've played them before. We've done this. We've done that. It just seems very lethargic everywhere to me. I just don't feel like there is that buzz around anymore. I've just noticed one of these comments does actually say, I worry we're not even close to hitting rock bottom. I hate to be that person as well, but I think the same. January could be disastrous for us, really disastrous. And I do wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah, January. I think that's Nick who sent that comment in. I worry that we're not even close to hitting rock bottom. I fear January. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Beck? Are you expecting signings? Are you not expecting signings? What are your feelings about it?
I don't think anyone can expect anything from this club anymore. I don't think you've got any idea if we're going to sign somebody, if we're going to shift half the squad. The last couple of transfer windows, we've just not really known what's happening, and then it all comes through at 10 to 11 at night, and we've lost 2 and we've brought in 2. To be honest, I really don't know. I don't know what to expect. For me, I think there will be a fair few that we lose. whether we sign somebody, I don't know. If we do, I am talking in the singulars. I'm not expecting it to be 2 or 3. I just don't feel that there is enough money to spend at the moment, especially if, from the powers that be saying things like, season ticket holders are getting too many free games and things like that. It's worrying that club finances are being discussed that much and bringing it right back down to supporters. Are we really saying that supporters need to be paying an extra £10-20 a month or a season on top of the ticket price just to be able to get somebody decent in? It is quite worrying. Quite worrying.
Nick, what's your view of it? I mean, you've seen it from afar, and you're now back over here for the holidays. I mean, what's your view on it? Having been there for that first 45 minutes on Saturday, then you had to deal with something in America, bizarrely, from the county ground, which is very strange. What are your views on it? What have you come back to, do you think?
Yeah, it's sad because it is very negative around people. That they're not smiling, they're not happy. They're not buzzing to get there. Even when you see them Saturday, they're just strolling in, and it's a negative vibe before the game even starts. You feel like now people are expecting the loss. And then to perform like that, that's the artist. The players got to pick the fans up, not the fans in a way. I know fans pick players up, but it was just so, I thought it was so bad that the atmosphere was really, around where I was sitting, everyone was negative. There was nothing. No shots on goal in that first half. Nothing to get them off the seats to excite them. It was just all bored. And then to give a goal away as bad as that with no marking, what are they expecting?
Yeah, 2 goals, 2 attempts on target in 180 minutes. I think that's the stat that we're looking at, Phil, which is pretty shocking, really, isn't it? All right, what about that offside then, Phil? I mean, it's been brought up that maybe there was an offside from the free kick. Does that matter? I mean, it was so bad, the marking, that, did that matter?
Well, if he was offside, he was offside. Yeah, I haven't watched it back again, but I didn't see of where it was or when it was from, to be honest. So yeah, I can't really complain. Well, can't really make a comment about that. But I don't think it would have changed the result, to be honest with you. I think it was inevitable that they were gonna get a goal and they were gonna keep the lead, really. So obviously you don't want to concede, and if it's a goal that's offside, then obviously you're disappointed. But I don't think it would have changed the result Saturday.
No. What have you made of the atmosphere? Because it was, there was a pancake, it's proverbially flat, and it was a bit like that, wasn't it? I mean, whether it's pre-Christmas or it's whether it's all the comments that have been going on this week, what have you made of the atmosphere, Phil?
Yeah, it was definitely flat, and I think it's one of those things that obviously what's been going on off the field hasn't helped with the morale around the supporters, and I was sort of saying during that when these things behind the scenes ain't great, then that when the fans are coming in with that sort of it seems to me, like from what I've seen and read in newspapers and stuff like that, that sort of supporters feel a little bit sort of fed up at the minute with it all, and then when it's not right on the pitch straight away, then it just sort of escalates and it carries on that way, and it multiplies because there isn't anything to get up for. And then, obviously there's been a few performances that ain't been great, and a lot of goals that have gone in very similar to the ones that went in on Saturday in terms of sort of defensive kind of, or lack of defensive kind of security, if you like. So it just sort of all escalates, I think, and festers from that, I think, really. But it did seem very, very flat on Saturday, and I think that's a few things going on with obviously off the pitch and on the pitch.
Yeah, Andrew, he said to you that there was a lot going on. What do you think he meant by that? I mean, did he mean, the fact that, there are all these charges hanging over there? We seem to have lost Nick in the darkness for a moment. Hopefully he'll come back soon. But what do you think he meant? What did you make of that comment? You're on mute at the moment, Andrew.
Thank you, Vic. I'll try not to do that on Saturday. I took it at the time, perhaps, to to mean both the charges and the kind of injury situation. I think whether there's any more there, you wouldn't be entirely surprised. But I must admit, I did kind of take it up broadly that face value at the time. So just just the fact they knew the Football League charge was coming in, but still to have it confirmed is another thing, I think. And then just the fact, there aren't really any fit players. Well, there's enough to put out in 11 and not a lot more.
Sure. Sean says, how can clubs get like 3,000 home crowds, manage to get decent players? Doesn't add up to me. I certainly got the impression from Flynn that certain players aren't too keen to hop off the injury table. Used to really look forward to a Boxing Day game at home, but don't think I'll even be going this year, says Michael. Personally, I think Flynn has lost the changing room, says Daz. Supporters equals freeloaders, according to the chief executive. Too many free games. Neil says the chief executive officer's statement on your first interview was a PA disaster. Some interesting post-match stuff from Flynn. Was he alluding to something more, injuries going on behind the scenes, or are we reading too much into every word? I mean, is that a problem, Bet? Because it does seem to me that every comment seems to be negative at the moment. There aren't any positive ones. I mean, after Saturday, for goodness sake, you can't make too many positive ones.
There's not much
But
to say, is there?
no, but do you see the point I'm making? There seems to be a lot of negative noise rather than any positive stuff.
Yeah, I think at the moment there just seems to be the lack of enthusiasm. I think that's a lot of it. I'm certainly not a happy clapper type of person or anything like that. But at the moment, there really isn't much, is there, that we can sort of get excited about. I noticed one of these comments actually says, would these players be dropping like flies if we were in the top three? I don't imagine they would. No, it gives them a lot more incentive to play for. I remember a Boxing Day at Walsall 8-9 years ago, something like that. It was great, massive crowd, everybody really up for it in the snow. I just don't think we have that at the moment. I think there is so much that's going on with the club. It always seems to be Swindon. I said this today, actually. It does always seem to just be negative press around Swindon, Why is it nobody else? And why do we get ourselves in these situations? I hate being this person because I love the club, trying to teach my son that you support your hometown. You don't just pick some random team out the Premier League and say you support them. But at the moment, seeing his little face when he comes home and he's just fed up. He's sat there for 90 minutes and not seen anything even that he can learn from. It's hard at the moment. It is hard to get any sort of enthusiasm, and you're certainly not getting any enthusiasm from much of the team, I don't think.
Very interesting point. And Craig says, I was sat near the dugout on Saturday and the players didn't do any of the things that Flynn and Gunning shouted at them to do for that corner. Whether you mean Steve Mildenhall or Wayne Hatswell. Gav Gunning there, Andrew? Is he still?
He wouldn't be on the bench.
No. I think it was Hatswell or Mildenhall. Paul says 10,000 sellout Boxing Day, 3,000 away. The fans are there. Are the rest there with us? I.e., beyond the Serbs, Cass Wantage Reds. Not really sure what that means, but never mind. Nick, we got Wrexham coming up, but we'll get to that in a minute. But we got Tranmere away on Saturday, which they're in 21st position at the moment with 21 points. Their goal difference is -6. We're 12th, 30 points from our 22 games. Goal difference of 0. That goal difference was +20 a few weeks ago. I mean, it just seems we went from champagne football to, well, I don't know, really. How would you describe it at the moment?
Yeah,
Nick?
it's got really down, isn't it? That's the problem. And it's so hard, like you're saying, to get up for it because you're always, now you're being more negative going in the games, thinking the worst. We don't look like scoring. We look like letting goals in. I don't know, when was the last, clean sheets and stuff. I always say I'm a boring coach. I like a 1-0 rather than a 5-4, which you've always got a chance of winning the game if you keep a clean sheet. But we never look like keeping a clean sheet. And at the moment, but at least before we looked like scoring, but now we're not even looking like scoring. So, and then Tranmere's just got, and they've only recently changed their manager and that. So that, they've had a little bit of a bounce from that. Is that going to make them even better? They're looking more going up than us. It's a hard one. And then you expect fans to travel all that way before Christmas. It's going to cost them money, quite a bit of money to get there. And the travel. You can't really sell it if you were trying to sell it for it, because it's just not looking. It's not looking great for Swindon at the moment.
Yeah, Tony says now thinking 3 to 4-0 Saturday to Tranmere, Phil. I mean, as Nick says, that's what people are going with, that sort of attitude before the match, aren't they? And anything else is a kind of bonus. Wimbledon was poor. Saturday was poor. Accrington, for the most part, was good, except for the last 7 minutes or so when they were conceding like nobody's business. I mean, as a player in a team, in a dressing room, and that atmosphere is going on, how do you remedy it?
Winning. It's the most simple but hardest thing to kind of do, and that's the problem. That's why sometimes good teams get relegated, is because you get into that problem of the pressure of, well, where are we going to get a win from? And like you say, I mean, when you look at Accrington, the thing I read somewhere that the one of the players said, we knew that as soon as we got one, then they could capitulate, and that seemed to be the case there, and it seemed to be obviously Wimbledon wasn't great, so you've had sort of 3 games, like you say, conceding a lot of goals and not really scoring that. I know you scored 4 against Accrington, but the goals seem to have dried up. That mentality, it's hard to kind of get out of, and especially then if the players, your manager can't freshen up the players, he can't change them around, and they've got to dig themselves out of it. It's tough, especially when you don't know where the goals are coming from, when you've been, and you don't know, if you don't understand it yourself, you can't put it right, except from working hard and not hope that it turns around. But the only way that it does is by grinding out a result, really.
Yeah, Andrew, what's your best intelligence then of January? What are your thoughts on it? What have you picked up?
What a good question. I suppose the first thing is you probably to kind of misquote those financial adverts. Maybe the best way to judge future performance is past performance, which hasn't been good in the transfer market. So I think that worries you. I mean, when you sort of speak to Mike Flynn and you ask him about bringing in new players, he's very adamant that he needs new players. You try and pin him down on specifics a little bit more. It's like, have you got ones virtually sort of lined up where you can hit the button? And he's less clear on that. I think we're all resigned to Young being called back, although the players are appropriately diplomatic about what's going to happen to them, and we'll see. I've certainly not heard any names come out, which may just be the fact they leak a bit less than last season. I don't want to disturb Nick too much, but I did have a look. It's 11 games since a clean sheet, 2 months. It was Newport in the middle of October, so it's been a while.
Yeah, you commentated on some bonkers finishes, and I'm thinking Wrexham away, obviously, and Accrington. I mean, was it a case of, it's 4-1, it's 4-2? I mean, it was, but both finishes were just crazy, weren't they?
Yeah, no, I can honestly say that even at 4. No, certainly. Well, maybe at 4-0, but not then. Certainly not at 4-1. Was I feeling entirely comfortable about the whole thing? I can't exactly define why. Because they played reasonably well. I think it was one of those games where they converted a really good percentage of the chances they had, and it was a bit like not Accrington's night. They had a penalty saved and all that. But yeah, there was something that didn't quite feel secure about it as soon as Accrington got the first. So that's just the kind of vibe the team gives off. I went to the youth team game on Friday night, and they're like 2-0 up with 5 minutes to go, and I'm still waiting to see whether that falls apart. And thankfully the youth team did a better job of seeing out the game. But yeah, there's never any real fundamental confidence that the defensive basics are going to happen, and they're going to happen over 90 minutes.
Yeah, if 7 minutes goes up as injury time, you're a little bit concerned, aren't you? Paul says, does Andrew know if the club were generally in for the 6'5" defender that was at Dundee United? Every fan knew we needed a big centre back. We didn't get one and pay for it weekly.
I think that's a reference to Ryan Edwards, and
yes, he went off to India, didn't he?
And yes, I think certainly the official version is they believe they virtually had him signed, sealed, and delivered, and then the India offer came in, and he decided to take that. But I think they genuinely were close. I think they were, they were at one stage they were extremely confident that was going to get over the line, and it didn't happen.
Okay. On first goal, I think Swindon crowded 6-yard box to combat height risk from Barrow. Second goal, they've just been done good by a good header. I assume Young has played his last game for us from Saturday because of injury. Of course, I think I'm correct. Technically, he could play on New Year's Day if fit, and then would have to go. But it's a bit like the Owen Dawes situation. He went back after New Year's Day, didn't he, at Plymouth? So I would assume it's the same for that one. Right, we got let's go through the festive fixtures, Beck. Tranmere against Swindon on Saturday. Then on Boxing Day, Swindon against Wrexham. Swindon against Forest Green with an evening kickoff on the 29th, and then Crawley away on the 1st of January. I mean, we've got a depleted squad at the minute. Goodness only knows what they're going to be like at the end of those 4 matches. What are your thoughts on the festive fixtures to come?
I mean, like I said earlier, everybody normally really looks forward to Boxing Day. I always think, it depends how Boxing Day goes. It sort of sets up the second half of the season. This year, I've got no idea at all. I think we're going into the next sort of 2 weeks of 4 games quite weak. Again, not a great deal of enthusiasm from the supporters, from the players. I suppose all we can do is not hope for very much and hopefully then be surprised. I hate how negative I'm coming across. It's really awful, and it's really not like me at all. I don't really see a way out of this. Even if we were fairly comfortable at a 1-0 at 86 minutes, I still don't think I'd feel particularly comfortable on anything until those 3 points were sealed. For me, I'd love it if we can get a draw on Saturday at Tranmere. My dad's going. I told him earlier that I said I would say on here that he's mental. It's an awfully long drive, and even he said the only reason he's actually going is because he's already bought the ticket and already arranged where he's going for his pre-match meal. I'm not sure that there's going to be a great deal of support on Saturday. Like you said, it's a long way to go. It's the day before Christmas Eve, and with 3 games without a win, 3 games without a goal.
Yeah, well, I'm going as well, so that says a lot about my sanity. But there's a decent cafe not that far away and chip shop, so there are benefits, I guess. Long way to go for a bag of chips, though, to be fair.
Yeah, it's an awful long way to go.
I mean, Boxing Day traditionally is the biggie, isn't it? Most, they get a big crowd Boxing Day. Everybody wants to go to football on the day after Christmas Day, and it's Wrexham, for goodness' sake. It's a sellout, pretty much. Oof. Are you going to that one, Beck, or is it your husband?
No, I am. I've got a spare ticket from my uncle for that one. So yeah, he's very kindly gifted it to me. I'm sure he's probably jumping for joy that he's not going. But like I said, we all love a Boxing Day game, and if not, then you get to go home to a bit of bubble and squeak, don't you? Why not?
Absolutely, bubble and squeak. What a lovely thought. Let's have a look. Why is the club so bad at clear communication? Hardly takes ages to do or ensure a weekly objective. I presume Young has played his last game. We just said that because of the injury. We can hope owners often go quiet, as Clem has lately, when due diligence is underway, so as not to prejudice talks in any way. No way of knowing for sure, but it's possible. And probably beat Wrexham. It's the Swindon thing. Laugh out loud, says Sean. Fraser Blake Tracy out as well. Brewitt could be back Saturday. Nick, I mean, it's 4 games in a very short space of time. So if they're tired now, goodness only knows what they're going to be like at the end of it.
Yeah. And I always think, certain players now, he knows in January, even if he's going to lose Young and Kent. So is he thinking, well, I got them now, so I'm going to keep playing them. So I need to rest others because I'm losing 2 definitely in January. So give the injured players more rest time, because guarantee we're losing 2 in January. I don't want to bring them back too quick and then they get injured again and I'm out 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is. I know they're out enough now, but you just think, how are we going to cope over the next period? because they're not confident in these players coming back greatly soon. So you're always thinking, what is the squad going to be like? Come, even Saturday at Tranmere, what's it going to be like? But at least no one. So I remember, I think it was you, Andrew, on Saturday was saying who's going to get the red card so they could have Christmas off, but no one did. And I thought, well, no one got sent off, so they all want to play over Christmas. So he's trying to get that sort of, who's going to be available, who's going to stand up and be counted. We just want to show commitment. That's all it is. And I'm just not seeing it. I'm just not seeing the anger and people. If I even lost when I used to play in the local, if I lost, it used to drive me nuts. I hated losing. Even though coaching, I hate losing. And I just didn't see it. I just don't see it with the players. It's just frustrating.
If I remember rightly, didn't Billy Painter get sent off 2 years in a row at Crewe just before Christmas? In virtually the same place on the field as well, if I seem to remember. So there you go. I'm not saying it, but it was just one of those things. Phil, how do players approach this? Because you've got 4 games in a little over a week. It is a hard schedule. Obviously, the rest of us are eating, drinking, and making sort of merry, unless we're watching Swindon play Barrow. How do players approach this?
It's one of those, like you say, it's thick and fast. You don't really have too much time to think about it all, really. It's just obviously your training schedule will be a little bit potentially different, lighter maybe, especially if you're carrying injuries and things. And it's getting time on the training pitch when you can. There's a lot more science in it nowadays, obviously, but they probably would have a couple of rest days and that. They probably had a full week's training, obviously, this week, and then after that, it's just going to be, probably training Christmas Eve, maybe Christmas Day off, or maybe a little loosener on Christmas Day, and then away again. But it sort of almost takes care of itself because you haven't really got time to think because you're getting ready for the next game. Obviously, like Christmas Day and things like that. Thing is, it's not new for anybody, and it's just one of those things that you don't really have the same Christmas as everyone else, but you enjoy your time later on. So it's not a new thing for anybody, and you just sort of head down and plow on through it.
And how about analysis? Because obviously the management team have to analyse the opposition, don't they, over the period of Christmas? How difficult is that to do? Because that's 4 games in a week. So how does that work?
Well, it won't. They'll be looking at games all year. They won't just be looking at the next one. They'll be looking at, well, okay, even tapes they'll be watching of Wrexham will have had Tranmere in it. Maybe they will watch Wrexham Tranmere and things like that. So that'll all be sort of steeped up, and they won't just be okay. Now we start looking at Wrexham because after we've played Tranmere. So they would have piled it up, and they'd have a good idea of what to expect. Obviously, played Wrexham earlier on as well, so they'll have a good idea what to kind of expect. The other problem that you've got is going over the last few games that we've played and trying to dissect that and put that in front of the players, which when you're not doing well and conceding goals, isn't a nice place to be for anybody. So hopefully that doesn't take too much of a toll either on the players.
Yeah, interesting. Greg says, I bought my son a ticket and coach for Tranmere as a Christmas present. Now it seems more like a punishment. The players should be able to manage the schedule as they haven't broke a sweat for a couple of weeks, says Matt. Now we know why Liverpool released Clayton, clearly injury prone. The only thing I miss about going to Swindon on Saturday is going to Phillips to get football special. The second half of the season is going to be challenging, to say the least. The club's rotten to the core. Forget the on-field disasters. Off the field is shocking. A complete car crash again, says Darren. Andrew, what about your preparation for 4 games in the space of a week? I mean, I know they come thick and fast. I've done it myself. But, you've got a bit of travelling in there. All right, 2 home games in a row, but there are 2 away games. How do you approach it?
Yeah, it is a bit mad. I suppose the only good thing is, once we've done Tranmere, you've seen everyone once, so you're starting to see the teams that you've at least seen in the reverse game. So Wrexham and Forest Green and Crawley coming up, so that makes it a bit easier. I've got my sort of notes on them from back then that I can update a bit. But it's either bring on football or watch It's a Wonderful Life with a cold turkey sandwich. So even know how badly Swindon are doing, bring on the football, I still say.
Yeah, fair enough. Daz St. George, hi. Nice to see the Legends open after the game Saturday. Not last home game before Christmas. So it was a Christmas party in there on Saturday evening, as I remember rightly. So they had to get it ready for that. So that's why it was shut. Simple as that, really. Right. Other fixtures coming up on Friday night. Many of us are surprised, actually, that Swindon's game at Tranmere wasn't moved to the Friday. But on Friday night, it's Forest Green against Gillingham, Colchester, Salford, Crawley against Wimbledon, Crewe against Barrow, Doncaster, Bradford, Stockport, the leaders at home against Notts County, who are currently in 6th place in the league. So that's a tasty one. On Saturday, Accrington against Walsall, Grimsby, Harrogate, Morecambe, MK Dons, Sutton against Mansfield, Tranmere against Swindon, and Wrexham against Newport, the Welsh derby. North against South, I guess you could say. So lots of games coming up thick and fast. What are you hoping for, Becky? I mean, let's try and be positive for a few minutes, shall we? I mean, to me, going to football, we took our 2 grandsons on Saturday. They loved it. They had a great time in the Junior Red Room. They enjoyed it. They went in the Legends. They watched the game. They were messing about in the game. They had a good old time. I mean, that to me was a bit of a highlight, really, on Saturday, apart from talking to Nick on the pitch as well before the match too. But it was, that to me kind of captured a bit of what football was about.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just because my son started losing a bit of interest. Fans are fickle when they're kids, even more so when he plays his own game, plays on a Sunday. He's just finding things a little bit boring, I think. Kids love the 5-goal thrillers. I know we don't. I don't think my blood pressure could take it these days. It'd be great if we can see. I'd be happy for a draw this weekend. I definitely don't want to think of the old boy going all the way up there, driving back down, having watched a 3-4-0 defeat. I don't want him going anyway. So let's hope we at least come back with a point. I think at this moment in time, I think that's pretty much all we can hope for.
Oh dear. It's a bit worrying, isn't it? I have to say it is a bit worrying. Sean says, I'm watching on my phone and had to have a double take on Nick's top. At first it looked like that team down the road's badge. Does it? It's not, is it? What badge is it, Nick? Tell us what it is.
Oh, this is the club I represent, Rush. We got all because I've told you before, we're the big organisation. We have branches all around America. And when you come together, they call it Rush Select. And I coach at the Rush Select. So we just had a thing in Florida, and this is one of the tops they gave me for Rush Select. So it's the R, but in a badge form with Select on it, with a big for our Rush Select.
Yeah, I can't say it looks like the team down the A420, I have to say. So I suppose it could be Reading with an R, but no. I'll let you have that one. Sean says it was a work sleeve. So is there anything positive, Nick? What can you give us that might be positive out of this?
Well, you're always hoping it's going to change, isn't it? It will change. We will get a win. We're not going to go and lose every game now to the end of the season.
Hang on, what time is it? It's not.
A long while, yeah.
But you're always hoping the next game it's going to, we're going to get that win. We're going to get one sooner or later. You're just hoping it's sooner. That's what you want. And if you can get the win Saturday, then it can get you in, like you say, the momentum. And like Phil said earlier, the thing you need, the hardest thing is the win to get you out of it. But it's getting that win. And once you get it, then it put you on a run over Christmas that you have 3 or 4 wins kind of thing. Because we could do it if we get, if we get on a roll. But it's just the place is so negative that you can't see where it's coming. You just hope. That's all you do. You always hope, like people come on the Facebook and who, what's the score going to be on Saturday? I've never said Swindon to lose. I can't. I've always got to say Swindon's going to win. It might be 2-1. I don't even say a draw. I always say Swindon are going to win. Because I just that positive. I always want Swindon to win. But so you just hope. It's all about hope. You hope they can get that win on Saturday for the fans, especially going all travelling all that way before Christmas. You really hope they get the win on Saturday, and it's going to change this Saturday. It's got to one game it will.
Well, remarkably, after the terrible run they've had, they're still only 2 points outside the playoffs, Phil, which is bonkers, really, isn't it, when you think about it? Because it does seem to be a very inconsistent league. So I suppose that is one plus that we can look at, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, we was talking about it on Saturday, Angie. I think the problem's been, I think at least 3 teams can go ahead of us winning their games in hand. So
Yeah,
now we've had a game in hand. Now a lot of teams have got 1 or 2 games in hand on us, and that can sort of put us down. Obviously, points in the bags is always good. And I think 2 points off it, but how long ago was it when we were third or a point off the third? So it wasn't that long ago. So it was just heading in the wrong direction. Still, like you say, still within touching distance of the playoffs and not completely out of it. So that is that positive that if it turns around quickly, then we're still in for a shout for a positive season. But it's got to turn around pretty quick.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, Andrew, isn't it? Because you can quickly lose touch and quickly start sinking down the other way. I mean, I think at the moment you've got 2 teams at the bottom who are kind of in danger. I mean, Sutton certainly are in danger of being cut adrift, aren't they? So, are we looking at that nightmare scenario or not? I mean, that's not even on the cards, is it? Or would you not?
I would think it would have to take a lot to go wrong for that to happen. You'd still like to hope that after January there should be enough quality in the squad plus the points we've picked up anyway. So if we can, even if we sort of ground out about a point a game from here, that would sort of get you to 50, and that should be all right. And what fun it is to talk in there. So I mean I can't quite see it. Sutton are in a sort of difficult position because I think every instinct they have is to be loyal to the manager Matt Gray, who's done so well for them for so long, but you do wonder whether that kind of long ball style of play they had, although they showed a bit less of that, as kind of got found out a bit really, and they don't know whether they adjust or not. So they look in big trouble. It feels like Forest Green have got a better squad than where they should be. And apart from beating Swindon, Colchester aren't on a great run either. So it feels like it's probably going to be 2 of those 3 Tranmere have picked up, and even just staring down at the table as I'm here, Salford aren't completely out of it. So you wonder how long it will be before they make yet another managerial change, as is the favoured plan of Gary Neville, who's always telling us to give managers time, apart from the ones he chooses.
Yeah, how many managers have had this week? I lose count at Salford. I'm not even sure who is the manager of Salford anymore. It keeps changing, doesn't it, week by week? Now, let me ask you this, and I've been thinking this, and I've said this to many people. Here's from Jason: radical move, but convert Charlie Austin to centre back. What are your thoughts, Beck?
At this moment in time, I'd say go for it. It can't hurt. Let's try something a bit different. Maybe give him the first 45, doing something like that. Why not? At this point, I'd be kind of half tempted to say to Flynn, just chuck on a pair of boots and see where you fit in. I might get some boots out myself and have a go. Why not? Sometimes changes can be a good thing.
It always seems to me that somebody who's got a great deal of experience up front and knows all the tricks and trades of the forward line might be somebody to have at the back. I mean, in the past, Maurice Owen has converted from centre forward to centre back. Andy Rowland did it for a while. The great John Charles did it for Wales as well. So it's not without precedent. And to be honest, Nick, it's not a bonkers theory, is it, by any means?
No, because to me, when they brought Charlie Austin back at his age, no disrespect if you're listening, Charlie, I don't want to call you old, but at his age, I thought they were just going to say, stay up front, we get people around you to do your running, all we want you to do is put it in the back of the net. That's all you're here for, is to score us goals. But he dropped so much now, I'm thinking he's always back for corners. He wins a lot of headers when it comes in against us for corners. I don't think it's a bad idea. And you might have a general, because he does talk and organise. He might organise the back 3 or 4 for the Swindon. I don't think it's a bad idea. Because at the moment, at the start of the season, when Swindon were doing well, it annoyed me when people were saying, Charlie Austin's not scoring, he should be dropped for Murphy and all that. But Charlie Austin set up a lot of goals. He had a lot of assists. And I think if he weren't there at the time, we wouldn't have scored as many goals. Lately, I don't think he's been involved as much. So I don't think you would miss him from the forward line by putting him at the back. And I think it could be a good idea when you're struggling and stuff. That it could be a good idea playing back there. I'm guaranteed he'll organise it and talk to them, and he wins a lot of headers. So I think it wouldn't be a bad idea.
7 goals, 5 assists for Charlie Austin. Dan Kemp, 12 goals, 8 assists, 4 assists for Jake Young with his 16 goals. What do you think, Phil?
I mean, he did duck in there quickly on Saturday, didn't he? When Minnow was getting seen to. I mean, he looked lively. He looked quite sort of enthusiastic when he first went. I think because he sort of thought, well, I've got to do a job here. But I mean, like people have said, you give it a go. It's a good idea until it goes wrong, isn't it? Really. So, why not? I mean, you might not have a choice soon. If somebody else goes down injured, he might not have a choice. I don't think I'd want to try any of the others at centre half, to be honest. If any of those other 11 that started on Saturday, if any of the back players got injured, I don't think any of the others I'd want to put back in centre half apart from Charlie anyway. So I don't think you'd have much of a choice. Yeah,
Andrew. I mean, aerially, he's strong in the air, isn't he? And as I say, he knows the tricks and trades of forwards. I've sort of said it, for the latter part of this first part of the season, if you see what I mean. To me, it's kind of pretty obvious when you're struggling for a centre back to put him back there. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd rule it out as long as he gets past the Dave Mitchell threshold for a striker playing at centre back. If you remember the QPR Cup game from many years ago, I can kind of see the logic, and I think we all thought what Nick thought was what would happen. We kind of sort of stay between the width of the penalty box and just come in there and be predatory and finish. But that kind of the work he does at set pieces is probably one of the reasons why Swindon's defensive record until Saturday from set pieces wasn't actually that bad for not a particularly big team. So that there's some sort of argument for it when you're kind of running out. I suppose I just don't know how effective he would be at organising a back four compared to offering more general advice. Maybe that's something he wouldn't be as clued in on. But I'm sure I've heard worse theories this season and will hear worse theories this season.
Do you know if the Wrexham game is on iFollow because it's a Tuesday match? Says Simon. I'm guessing it would be.
I would guess so domestically, but I don't know exactly. Because in theory the midweek games are meant to be, aren't they? But I don't know if Boxing Day is a bit of a
counts as a Saturday, as it were.
But not sure.
No, okay. Hi Claire, good evening all. Festive wishes to all the panelists and fellow fans. Hope to see many of you next on Boxing Day, and safe travels to those going to Tranmere. Come on, you Reds. Rob says Owen was a centre half, no centre backs in those days. We were still playing 2 at the back, 3 half backs and 5 forwards. Those were the days. Kevin says Austin on his own up front versus Tranmere. There's another theory. Play him as a lone forward if, of course, Young is not fit.
Yeah, again, a bit of change is good for everybody, I suppose. And the best way to do that is just to, see what we can do. Try and give Tranmere something they're not expecting. I rate Charlie. I always have. I am very much in the Charlie camp. I think he's great. Would I necessarily choose to put him up front on his own? No, I probably would. I would say no, stick him at centre back instead. Like you said, he's a great leader. And I really like the way that he does sort of get stuck in. I'm just not sure putting him up front on his own is quite right. At the moment, he is definitely more of that. I'll wait for the tap in. Can't blame him, I suppose. He's done his duty. He's old enough now. I say that he's my age. He's hardly old. But I'm not sure that would be my choice. But there's a reason that I'm not Flynn, I suppose. Must stand to him.
Well, none of us are. And actually, he had Swindon's best chance on Saturday, Nick, with a header which was saved by the keeper. It was the one effort on target. So, he's still a threat up front.
Oh, yeah. It was you got to give the goalie credit. It was a great save. It was a good header. He got there. He put it in the corner. And again, give the goalie credit. I don't think you can say Charlie should have scored. Yeah, he's done everything right. He's put it in the corner. I mean, sometimes you got to give the goalies credit and say what a great save it was. And it was a really good save. you know, in that way. But, you know, and I have no problem, like you say, if Charlie was up front. But then to me, I would want him just to stay up there, up the middle. If I'm doing that, then I'm building everything around him being in the middle, not chasing out to the right back or left back. I just want him to stay central and then have, you know, wing backs or wide players, if you're looking at formation, to push out. He just marks the 2 centre backs. That's his job, just stay up the middle. You know, the 6-yard box, the width of the 6-yard box is the width of his field. I don't even go no wider than that and just stay up there and be the target man if that's what we're going to have. But then you got to get the runners to go up with him from midfield. If he holds it up, you need runners going in behind and different factor. So, you know, it's up. That's what Flynn gets paid the big bucks for, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a tough gig, Phil, isn't it? You know, to play on your own up front. It is a tough gig. There's a lot of hard work to be, you know, just to be the 1 against 2 centre backs or halves, whichever we want to describe it. But it's a tough gig, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and like Nick said, when you're up there, you've got to hope that obviously other people join in with you. And I think that was one thing that was definitely lacking on Saturday, and wasn't earlier on in the season, where we're getting bodies forward, and you know, even when there was sort of 2 or 3 up there, there wasn't anybody else running in or breaking a sweat to get involved. And if you've got somebody up there on your own, you need that. And I say it wasn't evident, and that was sort of on the players' minds on Saturday. And I think, well, from what I can see, the only sort of change that we're going to see on Saturday is Shade coming in maybe for Young. That's probably the only sort of conceivable thing that you can kind of see. And I think I remember an LDV game, a Papa John's game where Shade went up front on his own, I think. And that was one of the better games I think I've seen him play in the middle. So, you know, potentially, I can't remember whether Flynn was the manager or whether it was Lindsay at the time. I'm not really sure. You know, that could be an option. But then, you know, where are you going to play Charlie then with one up front? So I think that's sort of the only change you're going to see on Saturday. But what formation the manager chooses from that, I don't really know.
Was Tyree Shade injured? He wasn't in the squad, was he, Andrew? What was
the post-match verdict was he was unwell, so hopefully he'll be back next week.
Okay, fair enough.
Or this week, I should say.
Yeah. Right. We're going to wrap this up very shortly, but here's a couple more comments. Try signing a few centre halves who aren't made of Weetabix might be the answer, says Anthony White. Other cereal boxes are available, obviously. Right. Mark says, do you guys think Mike Flynn actually knows how to get the best out of Charlie? Interesting point. Who wants to take that one? I'm going to throw that one open.
Well, does he know how to get the best out of anybody? It's not just one player, is it? You know, he's got to be honest, he's got a tough couple of months ahead of him, you know, because with the squad and players, he ain't got, with Swindon especially, not got a great track record of signing players, because didn't they parade him at the end of last season? So he's had plenty of time to get players in before the end of the August deadline, and that didn't happen. And now, you know, he's got a lot of players to sign in January, and getting the best out of what he's got. If he's not allowed to sign players, it's not just Charlie he's got to get the best out of it. He sort of declined maybe in all the rest of the players, and whether that's off the pitch or on the pitch, he's got a lot of work to do, I think, over the next couple of months.
Mark says Morecambe are facing a points deduction, which would drop them below Bradford City. I'm not across that. Andrew, are you across that?
I think the Football League has issued a statement today saying they were meant to put a month's wages into some kind of fund to prove they can pay them, and they didn't do that. The Football League's not terribly happy about it, because it was one of those agreed decisions where essentially the league and the sort of club come together and say, here's the punishment, and the club goes fine. And apparently, the league's version is that Morecambe have not played ball with that. So they are on the naughty step. Whether it'll be a fine or whatever, we'll have to wait and see.
Football club on the naughty step. Who would have thought it? Alistair says teams now know how to play against us, and they allow us to play out from the back and do the press quick. And we lose the second ball so quickly and get caught out. We must change our tactics. Darren says, don't believe Flynn is capable of motivation. Right. Okay. I'm going to wrap this up quickly and find out what I should say before we go any further is congratulations to the Swindon Town women yesterday, who beat Melksham in the Wiltshire County Cup. 19-0. You know, I have to say to the Melksham players, goodness me, you know, it must have been awful to do that, but well done to Swindon Town women, 19-0 in the Wilts Cup, which is an extraordinary result. Beck, how many points do you reckon from Christmas then? What are you hoping for out of those 4 matches?
What am I hoping for and what am I realistic for?
Yes.
Two very, very different things. To be honest, I would be quite happy with 4 draws. I'd be
4
really
draws.
quite happy with that. A win would be fantastic, like we've all said. But you know, I think if we can get over the festive period with draws, great. I'd definitely take those 4 points.
Okay, Nick, what's your thoughts on it? 4 games, how many points?
I reckon 7, at least. A couple
Okay.
of wins and a draw and a loss.
Okay, well, I think we'd all take that quite happily. Phil, what would you take from that?
Well, I'm going to sound quite brutal here, but I think if you take 4 points over the next 4 games, then I think you're out of the playoff race. Because I think other teams will get. You think other teams will probably end up with 9 or 10 points over that period. So I think you need to get 7, 8. You know, hopefully 9 points really over the next. Because if you're falling out of the playoffs, getting into them in January, I think you need to be looking at getting sort of like Nick says, 7 or 8 points really.
Okay, Andrew, what are you hoping for?
Let's say I suppose I'd hope for a win among it and draws in the others because well, Tranmere aren't great. Wrexham don't score that many away from home, believe it or not, though they pile it on home. Forest Green have been pretty bad. Crawley ought to be beatable in theory and have been beatable. So you're just worried by the last 2 that they'll be knackered. Really, and that's kind of Forest Green and Crawley. Let's say they beat Forest Green and somehow manage to scramble a draw about the rest of them because I don't wish to be a full episode of documentary again with the Wrexham. Thank you.
No, one was enough. Paul Mullin discuss. Right, let me see. Oh yeah, from Rob. Before we go, very Merry Christmas one and all. Always look on the bright side of life. And the one thing about football fixtures is what you do is you don't just go to football, do you? You sit there and you can moan for 90 minutes. But what you do is you go and sit with the same people that you sat with for years and years and years, and you have a good old chat and you have a good old moan and you go away again and you think this is part of our life. And that's how it is. And that's what it'll be over Christmas when we travel to Tranmere, when we're at home to Wrexham, we're home to Forest Green, and then we travel to Crawley on New Year's Day. You'll sit with the same people, you'll have a good chat, you'll go away, and it all starts again. So that, Andrew, is my sort of new Christmas and New Year's message. Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, and let's get going.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and Beck, of course. Really appreciate you tonight. Let's leave on a positive. January the 1st, 2020. A certain club were opening their new stand. I think we won. A certain gentleman scored, and it was a fabulous day, wasn't it?
It was a fabulous day, particularly if you live 40 miles away from it and live near Exeter. It was a great day.
So there is hope. There is hope. Anyway, thank you all for coming on tonight, and thank you for watching. And we'll look forward to seeing you all in sunny Tranmere on Saturday. And of course, we'll be back. We won't be back next week, of course, because it's a special day. I believe the next one will be January the 8th, I think, won't it, Vic?
It will be, because of course we're at Crawley on New Year's Day.
The following week. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all again. Thanks a lot. Good night.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.